gentlemen, I would like to call the board meeting for the Maricopa County Community College District from May 23rd to order. Before we begin, and we have a budget adoption, a vote to follow, and then the regular meeting after that. But before we begin, I would like, in view of what happened in Manchester and the now 23 deaths, over 50 persons wounded, to say that I hope in each of our hearts, our prayers, our thoughts are with the victims and with their families. And with all of your permission, I'd like to take a moment of silence to contemplate those prayers and those thoughts. Let's take a moment of silence. Thank you all. Let us begin. The first item we will consider before we go to our regular meeting is a public hearing. This is a consideration of adoption and/or approval of the budget for 2017-18. Vice Chancellor.
Thank you, Mr. Gutierrez. Board members, I'd like to ask Lulut Clow to come and give a brief overview of the budget. This is something that the board has seen previously and discussed at length, but for anyone who may be coming to attend the public hearing, this will be the budget that we'll ask the board to adopt. We've gone through numerous hours of study and exchanging information with the board to arrive at the process today. It's a rather lengthy process that requires public notifications, and we'll be ready to take a vote at the end of this public hearing. And I'd like to ask Lulut Clow to walk you through the proposed budget.
Good evening, President Gutierrez, members of the board, Chancellor Harper Marinex, CEC, and guests. My name is Lulut Clow, the District Budget Manager. This evening, I would like to provide a brief presentation of fiscal year 18 proposed budget. Fiscal year 18 proposed budget, total $1.4 billion. It's going to be a decrease about $59.4 million compared to fiscal year 17 adopted budget. The Maricopa Community College's budget contained funds, general fund, auxiliary fund, restricted fund, and capital funds. The general fund support a day-to-day operations such as salary and wages, utilities, contractual services, and fiscal year 18 budget will decrease by about $473,000.
You vote.
The auxiliary fund is a self-supporting activities such as credit instruction, food service, and other auxiliary programs. For fiscal year 18, auxiliary fund will decrease by about $13.5 million to be in line with the prior year actual. Restricted fund also going to decrease about $17.7 million to be in line with prior year actual. Restricted fund mostly the majority in the restricted fund, some student financial grants and contracts. The capital funds going to also decrease about $27.8 million. The majority capital funds include 2004 GEO bond proceed and debt service payments and other capital activities. For general fund, we have estimated new resources about $12.0 million. The majority coming from property tax from new construction, about $10.1 million. SRP and lieu decreased about $27,000 due to lower tax rate for next fiscal year. We don't have any state aid this time. Other fees increase about $20,000. And we also have about $1.9 million for internal reallocation, which coming from district office budget cut, about $1.2 million, and also from MCOR reallocation, about $668,000. For proposed use of fiscal year 18 new revenues, we set aside about $1 million to pay for employee manual adjustment. This is for anniversaries, education salary increases, and faculty professional growth. Additionally, we need addition for liability insurance. We set aside about $343,000. We also going to move about 5 Prop 301 faculty to general fund. Currently, we have 20 faculty remaining. Once we move the 5 faculty to Fund 1, we're going to have 15 left in Prop 301. We also propose to create 10 additional faculty to increase 60-40 faculty ratio. And we set aside $2 million for classification compensation study, and $4.6 million for possible salary adjustment, and $2.5 million for one Maricopa or student success priorities. With that, I'll take any questions.
Any questions from the board? If not, ladies and gentlemen of the board, we are on action item number 1, the final adoption of proposed Maricopa County Community College District. Before we go there, is there any member of the public who wishes to address the board on the proposed Maricopa County Community College District? If not, is there a motion?
Move that we accept the budget as presented.
Is there a second?
I second it.
It has been moved and seconded. Is there discussion? If there is no discussion, we will now close the public hearing portion, and we will reconvene as a board immediately afterwards. We are now in session. I would like to convene the session of May 23rd, 2017. The first item on the agenda is action item number 1 under business services. It has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? If not, All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'm just told I have to have a roll call vote. Ms. Smith?
Mr. Sar?
Aye.
Mrs. Livingston?
Aye.
Mrs. Haver?
Aye.
Mr. Hendricks? Mrs. McGrath?
Aye.
Dr. Thor?
Aye.
Mr. Gutierrez?
Aye.
Unanimous.
By your unanimous vote, we have adopted the budget for the following year, 2017, 2018. I would now like to adjourn the special session and recall you all to order. Now we're going back to the first, to the normal order of business. And that first, the first item is the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Crystal Roberto, or Ms. Crystal Roberto, I apologize. Would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America.
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
Nation under God.
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let me announce the substitutions first. Dr. Cassandra Kakar for Chris Haynes. Mary Lou Mosley for Paul Dale. And those are our substitutions. Student life reports, Rio Salado.
Good evening. President Gutierrez, members of the board, Chancellor Harper Marinick, members of the CEC and guests. My name is Crystal Roberto, and I'm a full-time student at Rio Salado College, and I'm going to discuss with you the student life, leadership, and engagement programs. These programs here at Rio Salado and our student life and leadership have a positive impact not only on our education but also in our personal lives. And I personally believe that the more engaged we are in these activities, the better chances that our students have of graduating. So as you all know, Rio Salado College is an online college which can almost present barriers to students as far as really receiving that campus life experience. I know when I first started classes here, I would often kind of question, am I really a student? You know, when you're just in that online environment, there's no interaction between the instructors or the school. It's just, you know, you turn in your assignments and you hope your grade, you know, comes back good. It wasn't until this year that I became involved in a few of the student life programs like NSLS and PTK, and I'll go into details about those programs shortly. I really began to feel like I'm a student, you know, I'm engaged, I'm doing something. Being a part of these programs has really given my education like a new meaning. We have many different ways, as you can see here, that we grab students out of the online environment and kind of drag them into the school. So the National Society of Leadership and Success, also known as NSLS, is very important to me. It requires students participate in a variety of activities and leadership trainings before they can be inducted as members. My favorite is the success networking teams. So you're placed in a group and you come up with different goals, and you have people around you that are there to give you a new perspective on your goals, new ideas, resources you may not have thought of, and really accountability to ensure you reach those goals. Being a part of this organization has given me like a group of friends outside of our S&T group, and just a really great sense of confidence that I didn't really have before, as far as like I can do anything I want to do. There were 39 of us inducted this year, and 5 of us actually were able to win the NELA Award, which is a National Engaged Leader. You just go above and beyond, and instead of just completing those induction steps, you really stay engaged, and you want to continue making these goals and helping other people be accountable and receive, you know, the same feelings that you did of success. Normally, we usually have only 1 or 2 students. I was able to do this. This is me with my dad earning the award. So I wasn't a traditional college student. I'm a little older, and I'm a first-generation college student. So this was something that I could do that made my dad very proud. Phi Theta Kappa is another one of our organizations that I'm engaged at. The induction requirements here are listed, and as you can see, academics is important. What I love about this program is that it really stresses community involvement. I wouldn't normally seek out community projects because I'm kind of complacent, you know, taking care of my children, working, but this really drags me out there, and I like that. I like seeing new things, volunteering, helping people, so this is great. So we've been a 5-star chapter for the 4th consecutive year. We do an Honors in Action project. This year it was perceptions of educational rights and responsibilities across culture, and cultural awareness is very important, especially in these times. Our college project dealt with promoting soft skills to our students at Rio Salado. I do want to take a moment to highlight Gloria Mendoza here. She was a very active member of NSLS and PTK for the past 2 years. She was recently recognized at a national level for her dedication and passion for PTK and everything the group does. She was one of only 31 students nationwide to receive this Distinguished Member Award, and she was also our inspiring graduation speaker a couple of weeks ago. Gloria's not here tonight, but she did want to express her feelings and gratitude for these student life programs. She said, "These groups helped me to grow, not just academically, but personally as well. They allowed me to find genuine support in caring people who encourage each other and rejoice in each other's successes." I also want to send out our sincere gratitude and congratulations to President Bustamante, who was also recognized on a national level through the Shirley B. Gordon Award. This prestigious award was only given out to 19 college presidents nationwide as well, and it was for showing the highest level of support to their students during their educational journey and through their PTK activities. Our student programs in leadership don't end there. We also have the other ones listed here, this Chancellor Civic Leadership Medallion, Student Leadership Retreat, Town Hall, and Be a Leader Foundation mentorships. We have big plans coming up. Our college project for PTK this year, coming up year, is going to focus on scholarship opportunities, giving students the confidence to get involved and to actually fill out those scholarship applications. Where can they fill them out, things like that. And also to reach out to our faculty to get them involved as far as helping, how can they assist the students. We want to increase participation in the Student Public Policy Forum and also promote more engagement in civic activities among our Rio Salado students. So my experience with the Rio Student Life and Leadership really enhanced my passion for completing my education, and I've learned a lot of new things about where I'm actually interested in going with my education, and I now want to continue it versus just, you know, being satisfied with that Step 1 associate's degree. So thank you very much, and at this time we'll turn it over. If anyone has any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Sarr.
You know, I just want to, and we think of Rio as you mentioned earlier, being kind of this mecca of people out there somewhere talking on computers all day.
Yeah.
I really appreciate your story.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both. The college reports, Estrella Mountain Community College.
President Gutierrez,
President Lara.
President Gutierrez, members of the governing board, Chancellor Harper Marinick, and CEC members and guests. Tonight we have a college report from the Estrella Mountain Community College students, led by psychology faculty member Dr. Norma Hernandez. Estrella Mountain Phi Theta Kappa members, Beta Alpha Psi, received many awards during the February PTK Regional Conference. Distinguished chapter member, and Honors in Action project. The Honors in Action theme this year was Myth and Reality, and the student research project was titled Food and Housing Insecurity for Community College Students. The students developed the research project, collected the data, analyzed the data using statistical tests of significance, and constructed the results. The purpose of the research was to investigate housing and food insecurity for students attending Estrella Mountain College. The results are powerful, and the regional board not only recognized the team efforts, but qualified the project to compete for awards at the International Convention. Tonight, Brittany Clark and Dr. Norma Hernandez will present a very condensed part of their research findings.
Thank you, Dr. Lara. Thank you, President Gutierrez, members of the board, Chancellor Harper Marinick, members of the CEC team, for this opportunity to present our work. This is a very extensive project that we did, so this is really a very short snippet that we're presenting.
My name is Brittany Clark. I have been a student at Estrella Mountain Community College for 2 years, and in the fall I will be transferring to the University of Arizona. I was actually an employee for 2 semesters at Estrella Mountain Community College as a peer mentor, and I was also the Honors in Action officer for Phi Theta Kappa, and helped lead this project. I will be studying psychology, and I hope to pursue research psychology for my career field.
So part of the impetus for this project is it is student driven, and we asked students, what are you interested in looking at? And so they had read $2 a day, and then from there we were encouraged to read Evicted, which won a prize for the best book in education and higher ed by Matt Desmond, who's a sociologist, and chronicled poverty in the United States. And so we made the leap in terms of, well, what does this look like in terms of our community college students? And so that's where the interest came from students to develop this project. So why study material hardship? What we're finding, and I think you have been granted access to this study by the most recent study on 33,000 community college students by the Hope Lab at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. And so we want to know, what does that material hardship look like for our students on our campus? Is this something that becomes a barrier for our students being successful in school? And students were very interested in, why do we have such a low graduation rate? Is this one of the pieces of those puzzles? And it's not that students aren't working or they don't have access to financial aid. And if you look at the bottom, 1/3 of community college students experiencing food and or housing insecurity were both working and receiving financial aid. So the students were very interested in, what does material hardship look like for our Estrella students in particular? When students say college is affordable, or the community says community college is affordable, it really depends on who are you asking. If you're in the high income quartile, yes, it's extremely affordable. $1,250 or $1,500 for the semester is about 10 to 20% of your disposable income. If you're a Pell Grant recipient, and that's 56% of our students are Pell Grant recipients, that becomes more of a financial burden. So you're spending between 40 to 100% of your disposable income on tuition. So is community college affordable? It depends. These are some real stories from my students. This is the top quote is a student email that I received a couple weeks before the semester ended. Dr. Hernandez, I wanted to let you know that I can't make today's final. I don't have enough gas to drive to school and then back to pick up my kids from school. I have sold some things, but I'm waiting on PayPal to transfer the money into my bank account. I appreciate all your support this semester. It meant so much to me. Thank you again so much. Dr. Hernandez, I can't make it to class today. My mom has abandoned my sister and me, and I don't know what to do. Please excuse my absence. They were 3 months behind on the rent, and they had turned off the electricity and the water. The most extreme case that we found, because we also did student interviews, we had some testimonies, which we don't have enough time, but I'm happy to pass that on to the board if you're interested, was a student that was living out of her car for 30 days. And it ended up that she actually had emergency where we had to call the ambulance to take her to the hospital because she hadn't eaten enough and she had dental problems that resulted in her being very close to going into diabetic shock. So the purpose of this was to look at food and housing insecurity for EMCC students. But the students also want to know what are the resources that are available for students on and off campus. So it's one thing to study this issue, but the Honors in Action Project has this action part. What do you do with this information? So half of our team did the research part of it, and the other half looked at what are the resources available and how do we get this information to students. So this is not just a project to do for project's sake, but how do we take it one step further? So they ferreted out off and on-campus resources and made it available to counseling, to the peer mentors, and then asked this question about where do we go from here? And we're in the process right now of disseminating this information.
So we were able to obtain California State University survey and used that to assess food insecurity, housing insecurity, and cash insecurity. These were similar questions that had been asked by the Hope Lab and using USDA surveys. We added some questions regarding student loans and perceptions about student loans, given that student loans are a vehicle to combat the material hardship that some students face. We had a convenient sampling of 331 EMCC students. There are 3 questions that we examined when assessing food insecurity. The first percentage reflects our sample, while the second number is the national statistic. Insofar as the percentage of students who were worried about whether food would run out before they got money to buy more, 30% of our students reported that they were worried at some point about this in the last 30 days. So we're slightly above the national average of 22%, which means that students are slightly more concerned. However, we're doing better than the national average in terms of being able to afford to eat balanced meals. Nationally, almost half, or 43% of our undergraduate students reported affirmatively that in the last 30 days they couldn't afford to eat balanced meals. Only 1 in 5, or 22% of our students reported that this was true for them in the last 30 days. And our percentage of students who said that they had to cut the size of meals or skip meals because there wasn't enough money was also half of what we're seeing nationally. Although some of our percentages are better than national numbers, there's still cause for concern when 1 in 5 and 1 in 10 students are having to negotiate their meals because they don't have the necessary financial resources. The most interesting finding, however, was that only 2% of these respondents reported that they go to the food pantry if they run out of money for food. And there could be a variety of reasons for this to be true, including feelings of shame and guilt that are often associated with these types of situations. Although only 2% of our students self-reported being homeless as of the time of the survey, 15% reported that they had been evicted in the last 6 months. 2/3 of our respondents had no moves in the last year, which is a measure for housing stability, while 22%, or 1 in 5, reported having moved once last year, and 11% moved 2 or more times in the last 12 months. And for those of you who have moved, you recognize that it is a disruptive activity in your life. We also asked the questions of students' stability. It's one thing to have a home, but another to have this feeling that I'm not quite sure where I'm going to live and how long I'll have this home. 41% of our students reported feeling unsure or strongly disagreed in their confidence and in their ability to pay their rent on time. 23% disagreed or were unsure whether their life feels stable to them, while only 11% disagreed or were unsure about feeling safe where they currently live. Finally, 48% of students reported that they were unsure or strongly disagreed that they could get $300 by the end of the day if needed. Approximately 1 in 4 students, or 25.8% of respondents, reported that they were extremely or quite a bit distressed over finances. Slightly more than 1/3, or 34.3%, reported that they were moderately distressed over finances, and almost 40% reported that they were not concerned or had very little distress over finances. This means that considerably more than half of our students are distressed over financial matters. Almost 50% of students did not know that we have a food pantry. About 4 in 10 students have not heard of SNAP assistance. 72% of respondents were unaware of emergency housing services in the area. And the most surprising finding for us was that close to half, or 48% of students, were unaware that we have a counseling center. We found that there is a need to do a better job of marketing this resource for students. Only 71% of students reported having completed a FAFSA for the 2015-16 academic school year, while 26% said they could not complete the FAFSA for a variety of reasons, including perceptions that they might not be able to obtain aid. Of those that completed FAFSA, which is the purple bar on the slide, 68% reported that their financial aid package covered all of their education expenses compared to only 27% of non-FAFSA completers, the orange bar, who reported that all of their education expenses were covered. However, you see this dramatic decrease in the percentage of students who say that all of their living expenses were covered. Only 16% of students who completed FAFSA said that all their living expenses were covered by their financial aid package, compared to 9% of non-FAFSA completers. That's a very low percentage of students who have all their living expenses covered by their financial aid package. The Pell Grant program, initially created in the early 1970s, was intended to fully cover the cost of attending community college. However, today it just covers 60% of the total cost of attendance nationally. We see from this data that clearly a vast majority of our students do not have all of their expenses covered.
One of the findings I think that we came across or that the students were able to see is that we're grossly underestimating costs, particularly when it comes to living expenses. So tuition is just a part of it, but the living expenses is the majority of the costs that students have to come up with. On the right-hand side, these are the estimated room and board for single and family as stated on the IPEDS data, or what we propose to students. This is what you'll need. A little under $16,000 to cover all your costs. That's including tuition for the year. But this is in particularly room and board. So this is not counting books or other types of external expenses. To the left is an analysis that some of my students did on this project, looking at what is the real cost in terms of mortgage or rental. And you see that we're underestimating by at least $2,373 in terms of what are the real costs of attending. And what tends to happen is that students say, well, I'm not making it, so let me start working. And one of the things that we find, particularly for community college students, is that the more that you work, the lower your grade point average, lower persistent retention rate, which ultimately affects your financial aid eligibility because you're going to satisfactory academic progress, which then means the only way that you can become eligible is to raise your GPA, and the only way to do that is to take classes that you cannot afford to take. We're currently working with financial aid directors and other people at the district level to address this issue, which I think is a complicated one, and again, part of the piece of the puzzle of why students may not be persisting, because if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, at the bottom, at the basic level, is we need food, safety, housing, and if you're not meeting that, students are not getting to their potential that they could get to. One of the books that we recommended and our students are beginning to read, and we've done this presentation also for faculty and some of our staff, is Paying the Price by Sarah Goldberg-Graf, that addresses these issues. And then we see that students' academic performance can suffer tremendously when these needs are not met. This is a humanitarian concern as well as a priority for all community colleges. We thank you for your time, and we will entertain any questions if anybody has any. Yes, ma'am.
Today I had the displeasure of meeting with one of my students. Today was graduation day, and he graduated last year and attends one of our colleges, and he is now fighting to regain his financial aid because he had to leave some of his classes. It's a long story, but the bottom line is he doesn't know whether he can stay in his home. He's not eating at home. I mean, the list goes on and on. So the stories that you hear, I want everyone to know, they're true. And they're beyond heartbreaking. I don't know that we can certainly pay for every student that goes through, but you're right, there does have to be some communication from the college level to the student to help him or her get the help they need. So I'm going to be doing some research and then sending it on to him. Yay. Because I think he can probably get everything from the state to the college to everything, so he can be safe.
Yes.
And not have to live with someone who is not safe, even
Yes.
though that's his mother. Sad, huh?
The case with the student living for 30 days in the car, it stemmed from an abuse issue, that she was being sexually abused, and so she had to move, but then could not afford the rent on her own. At one point, we have an audio recording of her where she talks about having to steal candy at the massage parlor where she was working, and then her boss finds out and says, "You can let her be here."
So
And so
sad.
it's a real heartache, and just connecting students to the resources. What we found is students were very ashamed. They don't want to talk about this. They feel that it's something within their control, that they shouldn't take these resources. And what we talked to them about was, this is a bridge, because if you can be successful, and one of the mottos we have at Estrella is, your success is our success. And so we want to help them to be able to connect those resources.
Now, this is happening at Estrella. Are you setting up this model for it to happen at all of our colleges?
To look at,
This-
one of the plans this summer is to reach out to South Mountain, because I have some colleagues at South Mountain, to see if they're interested. But another part of the survey was to look at the plight of adjunct faculty, and to see to what extent are they also suffering from material hardship. And there was a recent piece in The Atlantic that just came out looking at how many of our adjunct faculty are living below the poverty level, under $20,000 if you're working full-time. And so how does that have an impact? I mean, we're happy to share our survey and share our results. We're going to be doing that with Cal State Fullerton, who lent us the survey, but also to do it, our sample size was a lot bigger than what was gathered from the Hope Lab, because we had students like Brittany that were going out and collecting this data in classrooms, and I think we got more robust data in that respect.
I want to thank you. This is pretty extraordinary. But I do have some questions about response, and you hit upon it in your last the last statement. It would seem to me that there would be a shame element amongst students, and that shame element of admitting that one is homeless, or admitting that one doesn't have enough money to eat that particular day, that one doesn't have enough money to get to school that particular day, they don't have enough money to get on the bus. There's a shame element to all of this. They don't, admit it to each other. So I'm wondering, in terms of the survey, which is terrific, but do you believe there is a underreporting in because some of those numbers were surprisingly low, I thought, given my own experiences, that there's a shame element that led people to say, no, I eat, I have a place to stay, et cetera, and drive those numbers higher than reality reflects.
I think Estrella, we have to remember Estrella is a Hispanic serving institution. Close to 50% of our students are Hispanic. And one of the things we know about the Hispanic community, I'm also an anthropologist by training, is that there is more cohesiveness in that community, where fewer people kind of slip through the cracks as opposed to not being a Hispanic serving institution. So I think that's one of the reasons why we may see lower numbers there. The survey was anonymous. We think it was pretty reflective of our student body.
Excuse me, on that point, how was it given? When you say it's anonymous, was it sent to them by email or?
Students like Brittany and who were on PTK went into classrooms and said, here's the link, would you please, and we had permission from the professors, would you please take this survey? And so it was a convenient sample, it wasn't a random sample.
It wasn't a random sample at all,
sir.
then?
No,
It was those who wished to answer.
Well, we had a lot of faculty who were willing to let us into their classrooms, and we did collect demographic data in terms of, were these part-time, were these full-time students, were these evening, were these daytime students? So we think it's a pretty robust data. It is a convenient sample, it wasn't random, but students, I've been running the research methods class for the 4 years that I've been there. The data, students seem to be pretty honest in terms of what they say. And one of the things that has happened because of this project is that I've been identified as a faculty member who deals with material hardship, so that there have been many more students coming forward and say, look, I'm struggling with this, can you please help me?
Well, I'm wondering, I'm curious, so we're talking about South a moment, if you would consider a random survey so that you could compare data. Obviously, the universe wouldn't be the same, et cetera, but the instrument could be the same. The same thing is true at PC. We have a substantial Latino population that reflects Estrella. I think this is incredibly valuable research, is what I'm saying, and I think we ought to extend it. I don't think I think without random samples, convenient samples will always be criticized. Random samples would hold up better in terms of debate.
Yes, absolutely. We're happy to share the survey with anybody who would like to do it. We do have it in electronic fashion, so it makes it a lot easier. And I think because of that medium, it allowed students to be more honest in their responses as opposed to a paper pencil.
Right,
where,
right,
you know,
right.
they don't want to put that down. But you're absolutely right. There is a lot of shame and guilt associated with this topic. But as we've begun to have these conversations on campus, then that's given an opportunity for students to say, okay, I am struggling with this too. I'm falling asleep in class because I'm working 65 hours.
But there's methodologies you could use with that would respect anonymity.
Yes.
And still do a random sample.
Yes. Yes, we can do a random sample with the permission of.
We have a budget. We should talk.
Presidents are interested. The governing board is interested. We can absolutely.
I'm very interested. So I will be following up. I will be following up to see if we can expand this.
Yes.
I think this is incredibly valuable. Thank you for what you've done. Is there any further? Dana, sorry.
I don't want to lessen the value of what you've done in this project, but let's talk about the project itself, because oftentimes community colleges are not known for research. And when you say research in the research environment like ASU, you're talking totally different than what we do at our level here. I've seen so many projects over the last 7 years of our students who really delve into some interesting subject matter. And yet they come away with that, not just with the information and the knowledge that they've gained, but the fact that they know how to do this. And I think Brittany is an example of somebody now who can go on and continue doing research, which is part of the learning process. So I congratulate you very much on both of you. I'm putting this together, but I know other colleges as well do these. I just, in the midst of reading Paradise Valley's voluminous science programs, and fascinating. And these are community college students that could have got the ability to go anywhere they wanted to go. They chose community colleges for whatever reason. We're just thankful that they gave us the years and the knowledge that we can take as a district and pass on to students that come after them. So thank you very much.
Any further discussion?
Just real quick. I don't care about
Ms.
the research.
Livingston.
What I want this replicated in the campuses. I want our counselors to be emboldened with this. You know, we can argue research till we're blue in the face. I just want these programs everywhere. So if you can hit that and take it running, sit with the chancellor, make this happen. I want as many kids as possible to have what they need so they get through school. I hear too many of these stories a day. So however you do that, see Dr. Harper Marinick.
Further
Get
discussion?
this going.
Thank you.
If not, ladies, thank you so very much.
Thank you.
We are now at citizens interim. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address the governing board. However, I want to stress this in compliance with the open meeting law. The governing board will neither discuss nor take action at this time on whatever agenda item you speak to. We can, at a later date, schedule a discussion of that item. The use of derisive or insultive language, et cetera, you all know what it says, will be, we will ask you to stop. If you want to speak but have not filled out one of these forms, they're right outside the hallway. Please do so before the end of this section. The first person is Mr. Scott Ward. He's a father and a coach. Mr. Ward.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, I just wanted to come tonight, pardon me, and thank you for what a great institution the Maricopa County Community College system is. And two subjects. I'm a father of four, Two of my children right now attend community college. And I wanted to share how innovative you are. I am a trained, or I should say educated history and political science teacher that is now a real estate developer who has developed single-family subdivisions where you have institutions. And a couple of examples. My son Alex goes to Scottsdale Community College, and he's been able to take classes at Chandler Gilbert Community College, which has saved me money and gas. And those type of innovations where he can go from institution to institution and still be accredited is really helpful. My daughter Emily, again, is a working girl, and she goes to Chandler Gilbert Community College and then Mesa Community College, so she's closer. She's also a night owl and can take online education. And so it really broadens people that work. I've been lucky enough to be a guest lecturer at Chandler Gilbert talking about real estate development. And I've been able to help a number of your students understand a apartment lease. And so I would leave my cards behind, and these kids would call me and say, hey, I'm gonna lease an apartment, what do you think? And so just having the ability to reach out to the business community and ask people to come in and give lectures, very inviting. The main reason I'm here is to talk about the budget. For 12 years, I worked for Supervisor Fulton Brock, and then Denny Barney. I chaired the Maricopa County Flood Control Advisory Board. And I know how tough the budget is. And I really want to compliment you on all the tremendous activities you have in the extracurricular activities, from theater to athletics, and how you really care and offer love to kids. And I want to give you an example of that is very expensive, and that's the funding of the football program. My son's on the Scottsdale football program, and I know how expensive it is. I've worked on the public side and had to review budgets. The football program in Maricopa County Community College serves a whole spectrum of our society. On my son's team were Native American kids, African American kids, Latinos, Samoans. So it was the whole spectrum. And you take these kids that it's really a second chance. They didn't graduate from high school. They got their GED. Some of them couldn't pass an SAT or an ACT. And so just to conclude, I wanted to thank you. The self-esteem that you've given these young men, a lot of times guys 17 to 20 years old, they don't get it right away. And to be part of a community college, wear a uniform, learn discipline, learn the social economic principles that really help you. I've seen these kids go out and really mature and really become great examples in our society. So I know how expensive it is. I know the fight you have, and I just wanted to come in and say thank you. It really benefits the community.
Thank you, Mr. Ward.
You're welcome.
Ms. Donna Winston.
Good evening, President Gutierrez, members of the board, Chancellor Harper Marinick, members of CEC, fellow employees, and members of the community. My name is Donna Winston, and I have been an employee for 21 years. In January of 2016, I spoke before this board and about issues, I spoke before this board in regards to extreme fear employees face daily and the inability to speak to you or the chancellor directly without repercussion. I spoke about how issues are dealt with based on personality instead of facts, and it saddens me to see this continues to be the case. After viewing the last few months of the governing board meetings, and with all due respect, I am disturbed at what I've witnessed. How can we move forward with a positive message when your words and actions last month for the chancellor or each other sent us a negative message to the employees and your constituents? I am asking that you please replace those negative messages and show a sign of unity, support, and respect for not only one another, but everybody that sits in this room and listens to these governing board meetings. How can we correct this problem if you do not lead by example yourself? Let me ask you, in regards to employees, do you think it's okay for administration and HR department heads to ask employees to write negative comments on another employee because of their own personal feelings? Do you think it is okay for an employee to be written up for insubordination because she refused to make false statements about another employee? Do you think it's okay to be called a liar and a thief by core CSC members in meetings? Do you think it's okay for employees to leave this organization because of immoral, unethical behavior they are expected to succumb to, which goes against the very fiber of a decent human being and threaten with their job if they don't comply? And I know for a fact some of them have contemplated suicide. It's that horrendous. I can go on, but I'm certain you get the picture. Please don't get me wrong, there are so many more supervisors who are stellar at what they do by walking the walk, by encouraging their employees often, and do everything in their power to help them achieve greatness. I have my own story to share because I spoke up for employees, and more importantly, I've spoken up for myself. But instead of directly communicating with me, they have chosen to listen to others who have their own personal agendas. I am available to talk about the discrepancies and false narratives, not to mention the hostile work environment and bullying by the very people one should be able to go to, such as the VC of HR. Instead, they participated willingly in continued harassment I receive daily because I am the president of Maricopa Employee ASCOPS. As a leader for employees, I am consistently talking about how we must allow the organization to make a wrong right or make an employee whole. I have heard your story, Mr. Gutierrez, as a leader for employees so many times. I have stood up and will continue to stand up for employee rights and don't regret a moment of it, as I'm sure you don't as well. Employees can contact me at info@2014joinme.org if you are interested in joining an amazing organization who have been supporting employees for over 20 years and over 2,000 members strong. We need to undo the fear across the district. We are asking for the following so we can begin the healing. 1, the governing board abide by state statutes and revert our policy back to allow employees to come to you at their last level of support and address a concern. And I'm almost done, I promise. Okay. 2, the governing board adopt an anti-bullying policy. It is desperately needed here. 3, the resignation of VC of HR effective immediately to begin the healing of Maricopa employees. We are asking you to please lead by example by giving every employee the opportunity, possibility, support, etc., and send a message: we will not tolerate bullying any longer. We will demonstrate and lead by example with a heart of compassion and fairness across the district. In closing, in order to start the healing, my challenge to all of us is, remember, we all have a story and need to start each day with forgiveness and empathy for one another, and not to lose sight of our goal of human kindness for not only our students, our communities, but each other. Thank you, and if anyone wants to ever discuss this at greater length, please contact me at 602-319-5471. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Winston. Sally Hervey.
Good evening, President Gutierrez, members of the board, Chancellor Harper Marinek, members of CEC, fellow employees, and members of the community. My name is Sally Hervey. I've been an employee for 29 years. My first job with Maricopa was as a student worker. I worked my way up to a board-approved position back in 1998. I've always been proud to say that I work for Maricopa, and Forbes magazine has named MCCD as one of America's best employers as of Thursday, May 18th, last week. And I quote, Maricopa County Community College District is one of only 2 Arizona-based employers named to Forbes 2017 list of top U.S. employers and the only education-based organization from Arizona to be included. While I've been proud to be an employee, I find it difficult to be enthusiastic with the events of the past 2 to 3 years. As an employee leader, I had the honor of being elected as a PSA District Executive President from 2011 February to June 2012. During my time as Executive Board President, we handled many problems, and it's quite upsetting for me to see all of our hard work as leaders in PSA being ignored, undone, minimized, or even removed. As you recall, the PSA group, along with the other 4 employee groups, were sanctioned and approved by the governing board of May 1990. CSC members have stood before you and preached the unity of the employee groups, and though I am pleased to see CSC exposing the unrelenting behavior of the VC of HR, they are not without fault themselves. Reality is, they, along with the VC of HR, allowed total disregard to the employee groups' bylaws and constitutions, our civil rights to associate, and by allowing the illegal disbanding of MCCD employee groups without the authority of the employee group members themselves. This was ignored by VC of HR and by the core members of CSC. Core members of CSC have made changes to the staff policy manual, which leaders in the past fought so hard to keep, and their decisions ultimately hurt employees because they did not fight on behalf of all employees. They only fought for what I believe best for them. There was no transparency to all employees of Maricopa. There was no input or ratification of policy changes which affect all employees. We have gone from an employee-driven policy manual to an employer-driven policy manual, and only a chosen handful of employees have any idea of what is really happening behind the scenes. And even worse, they have been told that they were not to share with their constituents what is going on. The low participation of the survey given to the employees demonstrates the very idea, the lack of trust with the VC of HR and within HR and its administration. However, this lack of trust is not isolated to HR, it stems across the district. And although we encourage employees to come forward and share their stories, they are terrified of continuing retaliation or losing their jobs if they speak up. In closing, because all of these types of behaviors from people who are supposed to have our best interests in mind, we are requesting this governing board to please restore our civil rights by disbanding CSC and restoring the 5 employee groups, allowing us to make decisions which are best for our own constituents, not just a select few. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Carrie Mitchell, or Mr. Carrie Mitchell.
President Gutierrez, members of the Governing Board, Chancellor, CEC, and guests, good evening. My name is Kerry Mitchell, and although I am an employee of the district, I am speaking to you this evening as President of the Maricopa Community Colleges Classified Staff Association. The Maricopa Community Colleges Classified Staff Association is a nonprofit 501c5 corporation organized exclusively for the purposes of promoting the interests of the classified staff employees of the Maricopa County Community College District. We are the natural successor to the organization to the legacy employee groups and have worked with the Classified Staff Council from the beginning. Today I'm here to address with you the topic of information flow to the employees within the district. We feel that the culture and practice of sharing information is not what it could be, and we encourage the governing board and administration to embrace the truth so employees can be better engaged in improving Maricopa. A few examples, specific examples will illustrate our concerns. First, the classification and compensation study. We, the Classified Staff Association, along with the Classified Staff Council, greatly appreciate the information that has been shared with staff regarding the study and the changes in job classifications. However, the recent spate of presentations comes only after a 4-year virtual information blackout. We all understand that large, complex systems take time to change. However, by being more forthcoming with information about the process, the implementation can be made easier and more effective. Given the study was built with the intentional isolation from employee feedback for many years, it is hard to imagine that this will turn out well. Secondly, the employee engagement survey. The executive debrief of the survey was provided to the administration in mid-November 2016 and was only released, despite repeated requests, on March 23, 2017 after a public records request. Moreover, the released executive debrief shows evidence of a slide being added by HR and thus is not the original report as written by the vendor. HR is certainly within their rights to share a different take on the survey results, but by presenting the report as the vendor's original without clearly noting the modifications made by HR, trust in the process and the institution is further eroded. Given these examples, we, in solidarity with staff and faculty, call for an immediate release of the full, unedited investigatory report of the allegations made by the Classified Staff Council and have some suggestions about how this might be best implemented. 1, as soon as the report is received from the investigator, release it immediately without it being embargoed by the governing board or by the administration. 2, publish the full report on the website and send an email to everyone alerting us to its availability. 3, make a particular point to share the report with CSC President Chris Bliss, Faculty Association President Mike Mitchell, and their respective councils. 4, invite the investigator, Miranda Jones, to an open governing board meeting to present the report herself. We look forward to an improved flow of information to the employees and to the public, and we offer any assistance that we can provide to help make this happen. Please work together with us, the staff, and the faculty to ensure receive information that should be freely given under law. And should you have any questions about the association, we're having a meet and greet July 1st at Boulders on Broadway. Thank you very much and good night.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. That completes the purple slips that I have. Is there anyone else who wishes to be heard? If not, let us move on to the approval of the order of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Is there a second? Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Let me go back now to the Chancellor's report. Chancellor.
Thank you, Mr. Gutierrez, members of the board. Not report, but we'll use the time to say thank you to all the people who have worked hard to help our students succeed. I understand that all of the commencements had more people, and for some of the colleges, it was a record number of graduates, and I know that didn't happen by accident. I also attended all of the convocations, and I know that all of the convocations also had record attendance. So thank you to the administration, the faculty, the staff, and anyone who is working diligently to support our students. Thank you, Mr. Gutierrez.
Thank you, Chancellor. There is no board president report. Consent agenda. Does anyone wish to remove any items from the consent agenda? If not, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move that we approve the consent agenda as it is.
Second?
I second it.
All those opposed, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consideration of non-consent agenda action items. We are on item number 14, approval of contract award for 2017 annual summer pavement maintenance. Vice Chancellor.
Mr. Gutierrez, members of the board, this is a recommendation that the board award the 2017 summer district-wide paving contract to Ace Asphalt of Arizona in the amount of $343,377. It's anticipated that the paving will be completed by mid-August.
You've heard the description. Is there a motion?
Move that we accept the pavement maintenance program.
Is there a second?
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Too many papers here. 14.2, approve purchase order for building C, hazardous material abatement. Vice Chancellor.
Mr. Gutierrez, board members, it's recommended that the board approve a purchase order of $399,760 to Native Environmental LLC for hazardous materials abatement and partial interior demolition of Building C at Phoenix College. Abatement work should be completed in July.
You've heard the description. Is there a motion?
I motion to approve it.
Is there a second? Second. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion? If none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries. 14.3, approve open purchasing agreement for energy management system controls. Vice Chancellor.
Mr. Gutierrez, members of the governing board, it's recommended that the board grant a multi-year open purchase agreement to Johnson Controls Incorporated for energy management system controls and related work that will be provided district-wide on an as-needed basis. They were selected through a competitive proposal process. The contract term is for 1 year with options to renew annually for 4 years. Our previous experience over the past 5 years indicated that the district had purchased approximately $322,487 for controls from energy maintenance systems vendors.
You've heard the description. Is there a motion?
Move that we accept the purchase agreement.
Is there a second?
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. 14.4, approve the student insurance program renewal. Vice Chancellor.
Mr. Gutierrez, board members, submitted for board approval are 3 student insurance policies for renewal. 2 of the policies will provide secondary coverage for student accidents and catastrophic coverage for high-cost accidents. In addition, we'll offer to international students health insurance that they may purchase at their own expense.
You've heard the description. Is there a motion?
So move.
Is there a second?
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Item 15, approve authorization of increased expenditure and extension of the ERP consultant's contract. Vice Chancellor Kelty.
Mr. Gutierrez and members of the board, we're requesting that the board accept several changes to an existing governing board approved item from October of 2016. The title of that was Extension of ERP Consultants. The deadline was noted incorrectly on that agenda item, and there are a couple other adjustments and an increase we need to request. The original deadline was June 30th of this year, and we need to move it out to January 31st. It was noted incorrectly to begin with. Actually, over the last couple of months, we've had some changes in our consultants, and so instead of using DeMaio Consulting Inc., we're looking at using Peak Performance. The SIS section also had a missing vendor. Not that there's any changes in scope, but Burgundy Group should have been included in with the Oracle Corporation. And lastly, with the date change of the HCM Release 4 from July to October, we realized that it was also falling on the same date as the 45th day FTSE reporting, which is a pretty substantial effort in Maricopa. And we felt there was too much risk to run the HCM upgrade on the same date, so we want to move it back to October 16th. That'll require additional funding, and since we'd used all the contingency money, if we'd gone to the second, we're asking for $500,000 total to cover that extension.
You've heard the description. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. We now move on to information items, first and second readings. 16.1 and 16.2 are related items. 16.1 deletes Governing Board Policy 1.4, Community Development, Civic and Global Engagement. 16.2 substitutes the new language. Chancellor, President Dale, or Mr. Saar, who wishes to?
I'll make some comments, Mr. Gutierrez. Thank you, members of the board. This is for first reading, and it is, it's not? It is.
Yes.
Yes, that's right.
Mr. Saar was questioning that. It is coming to the board for first reading, and then it is customary. One item is the deletion of the existing language. The second item is the addition of the new language. And the items will come back to the board for approval next month.
You've heard the description. Is there, let me just say, we will vote on these. Actually, we're not going to vote on them at all. These are first readings, so you've heard them. First and 16.1 and 16.2. Item number 17, review employments. Vice Chancellor Shelton.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President, and members of the board. These are the employment numbers for the month of April. We had a total of 22 hires, and for that same time frame, we had 25 separations.
You've heard the report. Is there any discussion? If not, employee group reports. Faculty Executive Council, Mr. Mike Mitchell.
President Gutierrez, members of the Governing Board, Chancellor, CEC, and guests. My name is Mike Mitchell. I am the proud president of the Maricopa Community Colleges Faculty Association. Thank you for the opportunity to address you this evening. The Faculty Executive Council, in partnership with you and our staff and administrative colleagues, is eager to meet the challenges and opportunities we collectively face in the coming year. We assert that a renewed commitment to regular, direct, and open communication will be critical in these times. To this end, the Faculty Executive Council will be making several adjustments to our prior approaches. First, we will use the Faculty Executive Council report to engage the board regarding policies and issues of substance. The importance of the times requires no less than to take advantage of every opportunity to communicate, to learn, and to understand so that together we can meet our challenges. Second, the Faculty Executive Council has many officers and members with experience and expertise relevant to the problems we face. I will rely upon a broad range of faculty in our collective effort to communicate and partner with you. And from time to time, that will mean that this address may be delivered by other faculty on behalf of the FEC. Third, while we believe in the importance of this forum, we also believe effective communication and partnership requires deeper conversations than can be conducted in such a formal environment. Therefore, I will be emailing each member of the board this week to invite you to join in ongoing conversations with me and with other members of the Faculty Executive Council to solidify relationships and to address challenges more effectively. Finally, we believe information, whether in the form of data, documents, or dialogue, must be readily available in order for the faculty and staff to be effective partners with you and effective advocates for our students, our constituents, and for this system. Perhaps even more importantly, the free flow of information is imperative to the proper functioning of any public institution of higher learning. When information is suppressed or needless barriers to information are erected, the pathway to our successes is impeded. Without information, even that which may be uncomfortable, trust erodes, rumors build, and partnership becomes an empty slogan. Because we are a public institution funded in large part by property taxes, we must never forget that the public has a right to know. As if to make my point, our Office of Public Stewardship, which oversees and monitors stakeholder accountability, recently hosted 2 trainings, one for CEC and another for employees, in part with the express intent to teach the participants what counts as public record so that those records may be freely released. This is timely and appropriate, and I want to thank Teresa Toney and the Office of Public Stewardship for reminding us all of our obligations to transparency and accountability. Thank you again for this opportunity to speak with you. We look forward to a year of great success.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Ms. Hess, I show that there is no adjunct report, is that correct? And there is no other employee constituency reports? There is. Ms. Bliss.
Thank you. President Gutierrez, Governing Board members, Chancellor Harper-Marinick, members of CEC and guests. My name is Chris Bliss, and I am presenting on behalf of the Classified Staff Council. As you are all well aware, the last few months have been filled with anxiety, uncertainty, and stress for the employees of Maricopa. As I understand it, the investigation prompted by my February report is complete, and the report is ready to be released. Although we have not yet seen the report, I can tell you that our employees appreciate the willingness of the board to take our concerns seriously and to give this matter the attention it deserves. I have not wavered from my belief regarding the incredible potential within Maricopa. I believe it still exists. In the coming days and weeks, as the results of the investigation are released, I hope that we can move forward to rebuild the trust and morale of all employees and to realize that potential. This will not be an easy process, but small, thoughtful, and intentional steps forward are possible with strong leadership, integrity, and authentic collaboration between all stakeholders. We will each need to face our challenges and own our mistakes to improve on the areas in which we need to change. If we can acknowledge the truth, take responsibility for our actions, and commit to doing better, we can move forward toward the strategic outcomes established by the board. I look forward to working with you as we move together along this path. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bliss. I would like to go back to item number 18. That's the budget analysis, the Byrne report. Vice Chancellor, I almost forgot you.
Thank you, Mr. Gutierrez. Board members, submitted for board review are the revenue and expenditures through April of 2017. We've reviewed the projected revenues and expenditures, and both are consistent with where we have been in April of prior years, and we will maintain the financial stability requirements that the governing board has mandated.
Questions? Thank you, Vice Chancellor. Community linkage, governing board reports. Dr. Thor.
Thank you, Mr. Gutierrez. The ceremonial season has come to an end. It's certainly my favorite time of the year in which we celebrate our students and our employees as well as our community heroes. Like the Chancellor, I was privileged to attend all 6 of the convocations, found them all remarkable. And I was honored to speak at both the MICBA and the UTEC ceremonies. I attended 3 graduations and was honored to speak at Glendale's as well as Rio Salado's high school equivalency graduation. And I have to do a shout out to Glendale. Some 650 students crossed the stage, yet the ceremony concluded in an hour and a half. It was absolutely remarkable and flawless, so congratulations. And finally, I attended, this seems like it was months ago, but the Heroes of Education dinner, the Artist of Promise performance, and the Women's Mentor Program graduation. And like the Chancellor, I know that these events take a huge amount of planning and effort. So I want to thank the faculty, staff, and administrators that were involved in making these events very memorable for all of us, and in particular for our students and their families.
Thank you, Dr. Thor. Mr. Saar.
I'll say the same thing. We've been very busy at commencements and other celebrations over the last month. But the one that I want to stress, because probably nobody else will, is that the fact that we have 2 charter schools, high school charter schools who do extremely well and when it comes to graduation and their ability to move into their junior year of college right out of high school in many cases. So congratulations to our 2 charter schools and their graduates this year.
Ms. Haber.
Yes, I've had a busy month and I've enjoyed every minute of it, actually. I attended 2 convocations and 3 nurses' pinning ceremonies. And as you can imagine, I have a very warm heart for all these wonderful people who are entering the field of nursing. And I can tell you that I've asked many of them about their experiences in our colleges, and they all responded that they were very well prepared, and we're grateful for that. I also went to the Heroes in Education dinner, and I celebrated a person by the name of Ioana Morfesis, who is the first president of the Greater Phoenix Economic Council, and she has done a great deal for this valley in developing various economic opportunities for people. And personally, she matters to me because she provided my daughter with an internship, and that internship made all the difference to her life. My daughter is now 50 years old. It's kind of odd to have a daughter that old, but she is. And it does happen, and it did direct her in a very good place. Yeah, it's surprising. Everybody gets older and older and older. And I would like to mention the graduation ceremony. Well, first of all, the one for the Gateway High School charter school. It was really delightful, as it was last year. It's quite exciting to see these parents who are so happy. Their faces just light up because of their children, and 25% of them were also graduating with associate degrees, and that was pretty amazing to me. That we have this going is just sensational. Just one more thing. I attended and I spoke at the Phoenix College graduation, and it was at the Grand Canyon Arena. And I mean, it was really amazing. They had big screen where everybody could see their graduates. And as we were waiting to enter, I heard great music. And I said, what a wonderful sound system that you have all this great music piped in. And I was told, no, that's not piped in. That's the Phoenix College Band. Let me tell you, we all should attend the concerts. This is amazing. And not only that, but the Phoenix College choir was there. And I had never heard the Star Spangled Banner sung so beautifully as I heard at that graduation. And I'm not kidding. It was quite an experience. And I have to be grateful for all the people that took part in this, because it wasn't an easy job getting people into the parking lot and helping people get out. And they had everybody leading us one way or the other. I was terrified. I'm not the best driver of how I would manage this, but it was easy, and so I'm very happy. So it's been a good month for me. Thank you.
Mrs. Livingston.
I'll keep this short. I had the pleasure, as a teacher, there's nothing better than seeing graduates come through. I was at Estrella Mountain with teacher on their board going further. I thanked every single one of them. I'm so thrilled that people are still going into my profession, your profession. Secondarily, at Estrella, I got to stay quiet, which was wonderful. But I got to congratulate everyone. And what was great is that I had, one of my students' brothers was graduating. And I received a text from his mom. And she said, "I'm so glad that you get to shake his hand." And kids today were saying, "Mrs. L, you're going to shake my hand in a couple of years." Well, I mean, maybe not, I don't know. But I'll at least be there. And it was fabulous. So, yay, teachers. Thank you, Estrella, for inviting me. And I think we had, 544 or 5? It was amazing. There were so many hands to shake and the so many congratulations to say from my heart. And the fireworks were amazing. Well done. Very well done.
Mr. Hendricks.
It's been a busy month. It's interesting to see the graduation season as a new board member. I attended 4 graduations and 3 convocations. I got to shake hands with the graduates at 2 of them, and what an enlightening experience to meet each of the grads as they go across and get their diplomas. It was a really rewarding experience. I really enjoyed it. It's been such a busy month, I could probably talk for an hour, but I'm going to try to keep it to 20 minutes because everybody probably wants to go home. About a month ago, I didn't talk about this last time because I was losing my voice a little bit, but I went to a GLI conference, a leadership conference, and spent some time there meeting board members from across the country and quite a number of board members outside the country. And they talked about board interactions, how boards interact with each other, how they don't interact with each other. Played some really interesting videos of boards that don't function well, and made me feel really proud of our board compared to some of the videos they showed. But one thing I've joked about, I was there were probably 200 trustees there. And when we started out, I was pretty proud to say I'm from Maricopa because we're the big guys. And after I'd been there the first day, of the 200 people, probably 40 of them came up and asked me if I was on Linda Thor's board. And I don't mean to make fun of it. I mean it seriously. Is when I became a board member, I met with each of the board members before I took office just to get to know them, see who they were. I met with the chancellor, kind of get a feel for each other. But you don't really know a lot about each other than what you read. But when I went to a conference like this, there's people around the country and outside the country that come up and they equate Maricopa with a board member that's relatively new. And I know she's been active in the district, but it was really impressive. We've got an icon on this board that maybe I'm the only one in the room that didn't know it. But it's really hats off to her. And so I come back and I've been visiting the colleges. I've been to 8 of the colleges now to visit them. And I got to have lunch in the Linda Thor room at Rio Salado College, which was a great experience. I really enjoyed that, and that was a fantastic experience. I attended the Scottsdale Film Festival for the film school a couple of weeks ago. What a neat experience that was. These students, they are really talented. They do some really good stuff. I had no idea the level of work that they're doing at the film school. It was very impressive. I could probably go on for quite a while, but I'll go on to the next person.
Thank you, Mr. Hendricks. Ms. McGrath.
I'll give my report next month. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McGrath. And that leaves me. I can repeat what everybody said. I went to a number of convocations, the Veterans Convocations, the African American, the Pacific Islander, Asian, and the Hispanic Convocation. I was at various graduations. This is just the time of year. This is always it's always fabulous. It's always it's pretty inspiring. Look, we get paid a lot of money to sit up here, It's literally just so much money, you can't imagine. If you did imagine, you'd run for the office because, you know, we got money. But the real reward is really this time of year, is really seeing folks graduate at all of the colleges. And look, we have some particularly tough kids. The report today earlier sort of reflected on who they are, and so to see this tremendous success they have is fabulous. I want to mention one kid in particular. She's from the border, from Douglas. She came up here to play softball and to go to college. She graduated with honors from Paradise Valley. And my whole damn family was there. They all came up from Douglas and down from Miami and up from Globe, and I don't know where else they showed up from. There was 3 or 4 from Mexico. And I just want to tell you something. It's you know, I was the first guy in my family who ever went to school, and it is still such an important thing. For her, she's the 3rd generation of college goers, but the importance of that to the family was extraordinary. And I mentioned that to you because that's my family. In many senses, a relatively successful one. We've been here many generations. But to so many folks in almost every college, the majority of the kids graduating were the first ones in their family. That's pretty incredible and pretty exciting. So all of you sitting out there, for whatever reasons you're sitting out there, because we forced you to sit out there, your employer, it's terrible what we do to you. I just want you to know that it is really important what we do. It really is. Thank you. I have one last item to go through. The external community reports, the School Board Association, Mr. Saar.
No report.
The Community College Trustees, Mr. Saar.
No report.
The District Governing Boards Association, we will be meeting in Flagstaff in June. Meetings, June 13th, 5 p.m., agenda review. June 13th, executive session. June 27th, 5 p.m., budget and finance. June 27th, 6:30 p.m., regular board meeting. And June 27th, executive session as well, if needed. That concludes the business before the board. If there is no further discussion, we stand adjourned.